Yeah, man. I'm upset. The Pittsburgh, we lost the game, right? And that's not acceptable. Um, First off, I just want to say, y'all know I ain't been here in a while, so I want to say Happy New Year to everybody up out there, man. And and all that good stuff. But we lost, and I'm not okay with a Steeler fan and things being mediocre. I'm not okay with this losing in this manner. But a shout out to the Baltimore Ravens fans. Y'all got us. I'm congratulating y'all on y'all playoff win. I hope that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens win the Super Bowl so that my loss is vindicated, that I feel better that the Super Bowl winning team took us out the playoffs, right? I just, let me just keep that a buck real quick. Um, in that manner, right? But so we where do we go from here, Pittsburgh? Where do we go? Russell Wilson passed for 270 yards. And then in this game, Cam Hayward and Roberts were the leading tacklers on our team. Patrick Queen, we paid $30 million. I don't know if he's leading that defense in the right way, but Derrick Henry ran for 186 yards on us. 186 yards. 186 yards. The Pitts, us as Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we're keeping company with the likes of guys like teams like the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, the Titans are 3-14, by the way. Lost their last six. The Cleveland Browns are 3-14, lost their last six. The who else are we in a company with? We're in company looking at they're not even the Raiders. You know what I mean? We're in the bottom half, right? That's the company we keep. That's who we're performing like, right? The 49ers lost their last four. They're 6-11. The Saints 5-12. And they lost their last four. But that's the company that my Steelers is in going into the wild card game. I can't deny that. I'm not even going to try to sit here and come up with wild excuses of why we couldn't get the job done. I'm not going to do that. We lost the game. We got to get better. But how and where do we how do we get better from here? How? See, that's the thing. How do we get better? And I think it has to come out of the draft, right? Because free agency is one thing, right? Free agency is just one thing, and that's just the truth. That's just what it is. Free agency. I think we have to go there to get our alignment. We have to go into free agency and get the alignment. Now, hear me out. Hear me out, because I'm moving forward the next season. Quarterback situation. We got to let Russ go. We got to. Um, Tonight was his audition for a contract, and I don't think he passed. He took care of the ball. He took care of the ball. I mean, let me be honest. Russ did what he was supposed to do. You know, um, he did not throw an interception. Very conservative. Spread the ball around a little bit, may I say. Our run game just didn't get going tonight, and our defense did not answer the call. But I'm not blaming this game on Russ. I'm not. I'm not blaming this game on Russ. At all. I'm just not. But if we do keep Russell Wilson and we find a way, I just think we should start Justin Fields. Hear me out with this little theory, right? So Russ came in and I think he took us on what, a 6-game winning streak, right? Okay. So let's just mind that. Came right in and gave us a 6-game win streak. Got us through some tough games, played conservative, took care of the ball, right, and all that good veteran stuff, right? So we keep Justin Fields in. Take the training wheels off of the offense. Open up the entire offense to Justin Fields. He's a dual threat quarterback. It's late in the season. He's a little banged up. Jalen Hurts type deal with what the Eagles got going on. maybe need to heal up or something. Week 13. Russell Wilson now comes in. New quarterback. They know what he can do, but they don't have that much film on Russ. They don't know how to really stop Russ. You got to think it quick. 6 games from week 13, or I don't know, 6 games from week 16. That is a Super Bowl winning team. You know what I mean? So why didn't we just and then hear me out. Hear me out. Russ has the experience. They opened up the offense immediately for Russell Wilson. Justin Fields, you have to account as him as a runner. We seen the play where the Baltimore Ravens took 2 guys, their defensive end and their outside linebacker. Justin Fields froze them, which in theory helped the offensive line, because now the offensive line had 2 less guys to block. And I think we got a 4 or 5 yard gain. You can't argue with getting 5 yards and 4 or 5 yards in the NFL per carry. Just can't argue that. That's a damn good run. Freezing them up that much, right? If you got a home run hitter, a guy's big with speed. If you got a Derrick Henry in that situation, he's busting through that hole and getting 13 yards, right? Maybe more. We know the offensive line is young. Our offensive line is young. It's young. It's not bad. It was just in some positions it's young. So I said, get some veterans out of free agency, but gotta account for him. And he gets the experience with George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Freiermuth. If we keep Fields in there, he gets the experience. Because we can sit here and try to stop the inevitable all we want to. He will be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Eventually, this team will be turned over to Justin Fields. Why now? We're out of the first game wild card, which takes us out of getting a decent a decent draft pick, right? Justin Fields has not gotten the chemistry with the offense, has not opened up the offense to him on the Arthur Smith system. He's only 6 games in the Arthur Smith system. So even if he does come back next year, we're going to expect him to come in and just win 13 games. Take us, to the Super Bowl, right? He didn't get that much time in the offense. He had some time, though. He had 6 games and went 4-2. But it did not benefit. We didn't win shit with Rush. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't his fault, man. I add. The defense did not step up. I just don't think he's a good guy. I just don't think he fits our mold, man. You know what I mean? Like, it just feel kind of weird being a Steeler fan coming from Big Ben. Now we got Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, and look, thank you, Russell Wilson, for coming in and providing this year. I don't care if he go to the Browns and he come to Pittsburgh and throw for 400 on us. I wouldn't feel bad. Like, I don't understand. I don't know if players that go to the Pittsburgh Steelers understand the Pittsburgh Steelers culture, what it means to be a Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think they really get that. Like, this ain't no pity pat organization. This is a pro organization that has prestige to it. No, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I do know that Mike Tomlin has never gotten his guys. He's never really been able to get the guys that he wanted out of the draft, making the reaches he was. And I think that Omar Khan might do that. I'm hoping Omar Khan does that, because we got to get some guys out of the draft. We have to go offensive firepower in this draft. We have to do it. We have to do it. There's no, like, listen, there is no other, look, hear me out here, right? We trade the Raiders. The Raiders want to get Shedeur Sanders bad. They want him to slip, and he probably might slip because I don't know if he wants to go to the Giants or to the Browns. Those are two organizations that Shedeur Sanders is that's not probably not going to be good for him. The Raiders, maybe a good organization, right? So the Raiders somehow get Shedeur Sanders with the sixth pick. It's not bad. First round pick, top 10 money, right? We then trade the Raiders their second, third, and fifth round pick, right? For our first round 22nd pick overall. They can possibly grab a guy like Shedeur Sanders. They'll probably got Shedeur Sanders with the sixth pick. Trade the Steelers for the 22nd overall pick for their second, third, or fifth round, right? Because that's the value of a first round pick, right? Because after the first round, I believe maybe 39th, you probably may be able to get a guy. Maybe, but I think they'll have like the 39th pick. We'll be out of the first round, but it's like a late first round. The 39th pick is a late first round pick. You know what I mean? No such thing, right? But it's the early second. And they grab a guy up like Ashton Jeanty. Now you got Shedeur Sanders, Ashton Jeanty. Because Genty's projected maybe he'll slip to the 22nd. The value of running backs have went down. Or maybe you get Shedeur Sanders or Marion Hampton, Shedeur Sanders, Emeka Egbuka. You're going to get two things, and they're going to be wanting to do that. And by the way, because there is no offensive lineman that is worth reaching this year. I'm just being honest. There's no Joe Oltz in this draft. And let's make that clear. There's no Joe Oltz. No. There are some guys who are okay, but there's no Joe Oltz in this draft. Let me be clear with that. So now we got to go and get offensive firepower. Where do we start with the 39th pick overall if we traded the Raiders, or even with our 22nd pick if we don't trade the Raiders? But I'm just saying, I think we trade and get more picks. We need these young guys. We need these young playmakers because there's a lot of them. I don't care what everybody says or what everybody thinks. I think that there is a lot of offensive firepower in this draft. Yes, I do. Quarterbacks. I think there's a few quarterbacks. I think there's 5 quarterbacks in this year's draft that pan out in the NFL. Yes, I do think so. But I'm looking at getting this offense of the Steelers off the ground, giving Justin Fields weapons that he can depend the guys that is going to come through and give him the play. I think Trey Harris from Ole Miss would look perfect with George, would go perfect with George Pickens on the other side of George Pickens. I think he's perfect. They both guys that can block, physical, big, tall, physical guys, got some speed to them, 50-50 ball grab. Crazy. I think Nick Nash will be available at that point. I think Nick Nash will be available in the 3rd round. Now, if we were to trade the Raiders for their 2nd, 3rd, or 5th round pick, or the Jets, or one of those teams that's picking in the first 6 teams, if we get their 2nd, 3rd, or 5th round pick, yeah, we'll be able to get a guy like, we'll be able to double down on a couple guys like that. We'll probably even be able to get both of those guys, a Trey Harris and a Nick Nash. We'll probably have to. Mbuka's probably going to go in the 1st round, but if he's there at the 39th pick, I still think we take him. But there's, if Mbuka's gone and we can't draft him, you got a guy like the perfect storm in this draft. What do we get? Because you don't have to reach for these guys. They're talents. I don't think you can go wrong with getting these guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Trey Harris from Ole Miss, Xavier Restrepo from Miami. So there's a couple of guys out there, man. Couple of guys. Then we go get Jaquez Hunter from Auburn, Bashul Tootin from Virginia Tech, um, maybe even Scatterbo from Arizona State. Get him in the late rounds. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many guys at running back that's coming out of this year that we'll be able to get, and we'll be able to get some receivers too. And even in the later rounds, I still think with 6th and 7th round picks, those are where you're going to get your return specialist guys that'll come in and be able to, you take a slant to the house, maybe your Jimmy Horns and your LeJohntay Westers, 6th, 7th round pick. Those are guys that are going to be there later in this draft that I think we have to go heavy with, or you know, and we could shore up those cornerback and safety positions on our defense. You know, maybe we don't go offensive firepower early, but I do think that you got to go after and get Nick Nash and Trey Harris and Restrepo. I do think those guys. I don't think those guys will be past the 4th round. Now, defensively, I think that there's some. I noted that there's some defensive gems that's out there that'll be there in the later rounds because of where they were graded at. I think Savage from Oregon, the safety from Oregon, yeah, there's some things that he needs to work on, but he'll definitely be out there in the later rounds. I don't think you have to reach to get a good defensive player. Not this year. Not this year, because they have totally screwed the evaluations with this year's draft. Now, I think a lot of names will start changing up once they go to the combine. I hope a lot of these guys maybe don't perform at the combine, but when they go to the combine and people see how fast they're running and they're jumping and what looking good throwing against the air or intercepting the ball against the air or whatever, you know what I mean, how fast they go through the cone drills and so forth and so on, a lot of this will start changing. But I think that you can get a Savage from Oregon in the later rounds. You'd be surprised where Caleb Downs ends up at in this draft. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think Caleb Downs may go in the late 1st round, maybe to a team like Baltimore. I don't know, but I know that you can get guys in the later rounds in this draft. I do think that this is not a big quarterback draft. This is not a big offensive line draft, but I do think that this is a big. I do think there's a lot of corners. Um, some okay corners in this one. A couple of safeties. Um, Receivers. I think the receivers you should get early. Get your offensive guy early and get your defensive guys late in this draft. Because I think Jay Higgins from Iowa will be a 3rd round pick, unless a 4th round pick. Third, 4th round pick guy. I do think so, and I do think that you'll still be able to grab a Jaquez Hunter from Auburn in the later rounds. Now, I do and complete your draft board, and to be able to, I could be totally wrong because it's still early, and a lot of these mock drafts that you may be able to do, a lot of these guys pop up in your later rounds, but that the combine has not came yet, and once the combine comes, a lot of these positions will change. A lot of people's minds will change, right? And but I think we stack up with that. I think we absolutely stack up with offensive players, those hidden gems. I think that's what we do. We get those hidden gem type of guys, um, and give them the weapons. And if it don't pan out, then we know we have to clean house, because we just signed Mike Tomlin to a 3-year deal. Something has to pan out. If it don't work out, then I would say now it's time to uproot everything. We got to give Fields weapons to see what's going on with him, because there's not that many rookie quarterbacks I think that could come in, and unless we're going to draft a rookie quarterback. That's it. Or are we going to but I think we give him another chance. I'm a Justin Fields fan now, so I'm advocating to get these offensive weapons. Because I do believe in Kyle McCord. I think he'll pan out pretty good. I think all these guys should probably sit for a year or later on in the season, maybe how Michael Penix did. You know what I'm saying? For most of the season, till they get a lot familiar, see what's going on. But Jackson Dart, um, I think Curtis Rourke is going to be good. I think Curtis Rourke is going to be good from Indiana. Yes, the quarterback that played at Indiana, I think he's going to be okay. Yes, not the fastest guy. Um, he reminds me Big Ben, like not the fastest guy, but big, strong, and he could, and then the way he throws, like if there was and if there was somebody I can compare him to, I would say that's the guy right there. Because he's not athletic. He's not that athletic. I think Jackson Dart is more athletic than Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke is tall. I think he's what 6'5", 6'6". Of course, I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward were both panning out in the NFL. And yeah, those are my 5 quarterbacks: Cam, Shedeur, Curtis Rourke, Jackson Dart, and Kyle McCord. I think those guys would pan out in the NFL. I think those guys will have decent NFL careers. Yes, I do. Um, and one more quarterback, right? Um, you know how some guys are absolutely horrendous in college, or they struggle so much in college, right? And then they go to the pros and absolutely just light it up. Don't miss a step. Or they're the man in college and they go to the pros and they stink it up, right? Um, this is gonna get a lot of pushback. But before and I know I'm talking about my Steelers and I'm talking about the draft, right? And I got to talking about the draft, but I think a guy like Donovan Smith from Houston, 6'5", 6'6", very athletic, had some problems with turning the ball over in certain situations, but he really never. I think 1 year he had one true number one receiver. He never really had the pro receiver around him at Houston, right? So Donovan Smith from Houston, tall, see over the line, fast guy, but he's a pocket quarterback. He likes to throw. He does not look to run all the time. He can run. He is athletic, but he wants to pass the ball. I think he's a guy. Mark my words. I think he's one of those guys that might go to the NFL and you say, well, college, he made all the mistakes in college. Now he knows if he gets that chance to go to the pros, I think that he steps up and becomes somebody different. I honestly do. I think he's one of those guys that were not stand out in college, but winds up being good in the NFL. One more guy, another guy, right? And this is about to shock a lot of you, right? This is y'all about to be like, there's no way, no way. He just don't win games. He's just trash. DJ U. DJU. That's right. I said it. DJU from Florida State is one of those quarterbacks that I think that is going to go to the NFL and totally change the way that he looks at QB or in his position. I do. I think so. That's my hot take. Why do I say that? Because if you look at his game, right, up until he got to Florida State, right, every year he's had gotten better and better. He's improved on his game. Means that Say what you want about the play and him not being able to produce or whatever. He works. He works. He wants to get he wants to get better. He trains. The kid trains hard. You know what I mean? He's not just some guy that don't study film or whatever. He studies and he works. You can tell he gotten better each and every year, right? Up until he got to Florida State. And the throws he tries to make. Where was the number one receiver at Florida State University? Do we think that at all his schools that DJU was at, can you give me one true number one receiving threat that he's have had? I'm trying to think. I think Jack Veling, right? And I think him and Jack Veling had a good year up at Oregon State when he was up at Oregon State. I think him and Jack Veling, they connected pretty well up there. At that point, Jack Veling from Oregon State was one of the nation's top tight ends. Him and DJU hooked up a lot. But that's it for right now. And I'll be back with more DJU stuff, man. But I appreciate y'all for watching, man. Been up here for 20 minutes. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, man.